现场面对面啊，这个我们现在又回来面对大家，接着谈这个 GT 教育的问题。现在我们的这个谈话呢，开始有点意思了。也就是说什么呢？现在面临着怎么能够 find out， 怎么能够挑选出这些 GT 的 kids。那么这样来说呢，也就是我们必须得知道什么是 GT 的 definition。到底什么样是 GT 的学童？这个 GT 的学童呢，和这个 High Achiever 和全 A 的学生有什么区别？这个 GT 的学童和这个High Achiever 全 A 的学生放在一起进行教育，这个效果好不好？是不是这个问题 ？OK， Mr. Kantenberger, now we are talking about what is the definition of GT kids and how to find them out. What is the difference between GT kids and High Achiever? How do we educate the two populations?
All right, first of all, the GT kids, their brains work different from ours, or at least mine anyway. They learn quicker, they retain it longer. They're able to take subjects and analyze them and synthesize them almost immediately, and then begin to hypothesize. I mean, it takes, and any really smart kid can do the same thing, but he can't do it as fast. And so when you put when you get them mixed up, if they're real close, around 130, 135, there's usually not any particular problem. But once you get up in the higher ranges, the high achiever will get very frustrating, very frustrated because they can't keep up. And then if you slow things down for them, the gifted kid gets bored. But in most cases, when a gifted kid goes into a regular class, he's absorbed everything that teacher is going to teach them or has taught in the first 10 minutes. You don't have to tell them again.
Yes. John, you have a question here?
I think my question was the definition. Of course, if you teach a high achiever together with the GT kids, either you get, according to, just I agree what you said, either the GT kid gets bored or the high achievers get tortured.
Oh, that's right.
Right? So that's not good for any one of them.
All right. Go ahead, John.
And then the key here is to how do we find out?
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you test them?
Well, wait a minute. There's two elements here. First of all, you got to find them, and it has a whole different set of elements involved.
Yes.
And it is just as important as what we do with them after we find them.
Yes.
Now, once we find them, I think that's your question. The way that they do it in gifted schools is that they teach the kids at different rates. They learn asynchronously. That is, they all learn it at a different rate. So, and the reason gifted kids classes have to be very small is that the teacher needs to keep these kids interested and challenged, and they may have 5 different segments in one particular class, and if the teacher cannot recognize what these steps are and where these kids should be, they're no better off than in the public school. So the key is they have to be taught at a different rate, at a different speed.
But excuse me, Mr. Kantenberger, I have to follow that question. You haven't answered John's question. What is the definition and how to find them out? The testing system.
Right.
And let me clarify that there is 2 systems. One is a public school system.
Right.
I want you to talk about something about public school system, the GT program in the public school system, because most of our audience, actually their kids, is in the public school.
Right.
So tell me something about how Houston area public school system was run, especially their GT program, and then you can talk about private school, especially the Ranger school.
You asked me about 3 questions there.
Yes, at the same time.
At the same time, right. I'll try to go back to the first one.
We're talking about challenges. So
That's okay. Can I answer all 3 of them at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, first of all,
you answer them right, then you are in the program.
Okay, great. All right. What is gifted a person is gifted if they have the potential for high performance. Okay. Now, talented is actually different because a person that is talented has been trained to be talented.
Okay. Yes.
And there's been a lot of discussion over the last 20 years over this particular concept. And Professor Francois Gagne up in Canada at the University of Ottawa, he was one of the first to separate giftedness from talented. And so there still is a lot of controversy, but I think most of the practitioners in this business accept Gagne's model. So that giftedness is one thing, talented is something else. Let me put it in a short version. You can be gifted and not talented, but he said you cannot be talented unless you are gifted. Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, okay.
You have to have a high IQ in order to get high SAT score. But if you have a high SAT score, almost 2,400, you are by definition high IQ. Is that right? Is it similar or no?
Well, look, the IQ is age. It's a function of age. It's age related, and it can change as you go on.
That's right.
And you can be. This is very. While it's very important that we find these kids as early as possible.
Yes.
Because if they have a kid may have 145 IQ when he starts kindergarten, for instance.
Yes.
And if that person is not challenged, he or she can actually lose points on her IQ. So it's changing throughout your life because it's age related. So we you have to find them early so we don't have this particular problem. But I don't know if that answers it or not, but if it's not, you'll ask me again.
Okay, so now I remind you to mention about the public school system in Houston area. How do we select GT kids?
Okay, they're selected by the battery of these tests, and each school has a separate set of tests that they use, but they have to use 3 in what has to be a subjective test. Most school districts will not tell you exactly what they are, because what happens is that the parents will go out and buy the books for cheat. What do they call all these things?
Critical thinking training theory. I do that business, so I'm supposed to know. Okay,
and try to and teach their kids to bone up on this thing so that they will do extra well. It's difficult to do, but it can
doable.
be done. Sure, it's doable. So most school districts will not tell you what tests they are going to be using, but they have a battery of tests that they have available to them.
That's why both in KT and in Sugar Land, they only give you very short notice. Sometimes they give you 1 week to say, hey, I'm going to test you on achievement test. That's the date. It's usually give you several days. And in the extreme instance, they give you only 1 day. So you cannot prepare. Is that what you talk about? Yes, that's very interesting. So after the commercial break, we're going to talk about, very challenging question. You're talking about whether IQ can be trained or not. Can you improve your critical thinking process by training? Or if you're not trained, you just mentioned you're actually losing points. That is a very interesting phenomena. Okay, after commercial break, we are trying to find out the real answer for the question from you, right?
Right, we'll do it.
Okay, we'll do it. Okay.